welcome back everyone. My name is Luvia and I just finished a month-long decluttering challenge and this is how it went. So if you don't know, decluttering is the act of letting go of items you don't need or want. So you're essentially removing unnecessary items from your home. And I honestly learned a lot throughout this process. Not only was it quite fun at the end, but it was quite easy to kind of continue after the first couple of days. So I'd like to share some of my tips and some of the lessons that I learned as you watch some of the things that I decluttered. Alright, so let's start with tip number 1. Start slow. Choose a space you know needs care and reorganization. It can be a space you know you use often and have left a mess, or more than likely that you know you'll find items that need to go in the trash or that you need to declutter. So that's the easiest way to get started with this challenge, is making sure that you find a spot that can use that instant decluttering that isn't going to require a lot of thinking or a lot of emotion attached to it. Once you find that spot, it's going to be so much easier to figure out what your next move will be. Which leads me to tip number 2, and that's don't go linearly, go with the flow. And by that I mean, even though you have designated specific spots that you want to clean, go with or to whichever area you feel like cleaning that day, whichever area you feel like organizing, or an area that you feel you are ready to actually invest some time and kind of decision making in order to clean it, because you want to choose the path of least resistance. You don't want to be your own enemy in this process. And with that in mind, tip number 3 is consider looking over the same area or the same spot in the future. Now, it doesn't have to be the next day, but it could be at the end of the month or next month, a few months from now. You don't want to just leave that area unattended for so long or without considering, is there anything in this spot that I do not need anymore? Because I actually used the same area because the first time I went through it, I wasn't ready to let go of some of those items, or I left it in there or on there just so that I can think and see if within the next couple of days, etc., I would use it. And if I didn't, then it was already in the back of my mind, so that when the time came to check that area again, I could remove it and declutter it. Tip number 4, make different piles. So what I mean by this is, depending on what you plan to do with that item, there's actually a couple of piles that you can make. So pile number 1 could be recyclables, number 2 donation items, 3 items you just need to throw away, they go in the trash, they're useless, 4 you plan on selling, or 5, which could be similar to donate but giving away. When it comes to the items you do plan on selling, make sure that you aren't going to keep it if it isn't sold. So this is an item you want to make sure is going away out of your home, regardless of whether it sells or not, similar to the giveaway pile. You don't want to keep it after, else you're technically not ready to let it go. This leads me to tip number 5. Don't declutter with the intent of repurchasing. Unless you already know that this item needs to be replaced because it was used up, or you need a new one because it's past its prime, or for whatever reason you already had it in mind that you were going to replace it, that's totally fine. But if not, do not waste your time, do not waste your money on the item that you already know you did not use, you didn't find value in. Make sure that whatever you are bringing into your home, that it is something that you plan to use and find value in, and not just another item that you will eventually declutter a month or 2 from now. Tip number 6, organize as you declutter. Now, I may not need to say this, but I will, because as you are decluttering, you'll have an amazing opportunity to go through that specific space and figure out the best way to keep it tidy, clean, and organized. As you're getting rid of items that you see you do not need, or realize that yes, these are items you want to keep, you want to make sure that they are in the best organizational method or way where you can access the item whenever you need it, so that it doesn't go unnoticed and unused for more months or years to come. And I know that this is something I definitely did as I decluttered, because it was something that I knew would help me, and if I did want to use these items, I can easily go back to the areas and find them after I was able to, organize my space. And lastly, tip number 7, enjoy the process. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't worry if you miss a day or two. The goal of this challenge is to declutter as much as possible, and so I gave myself leniency for this month, and I decluttered as much as I felt like. I took breaks. I discovered new ways of displaying items that I had kept tucked away, and it was a very fun process, whether I got to declutter or whether I kept some of my items. It was nice to see some old work that I had and to be able to display it. So I really recommend to take away that extra pressure and stress from this challenge and just enjoy what the decluttering process will look like to you. So overall, although it was a little hard to start decluttering at first, it quickly became a fun way of making sure that I had items that I valued in my home and that I used. And I also started month 2 with this mindset of, if I don't need it, toss it, or maybe this is something that I'll consider decluttering if I don't use it after X amount of time. And it really helps to make your space more organized, more neat, and really helps your mindset so that you don't feel like you have to keep these things thinking that I might need it someday. And I find more joy now in making sure that my home only has the necessary items. So what would you do if you had to declutter? Is this something you're interested in trying? Let me know in the comments below.